Hello, hello, and welcome to Saturday Soundbites. I'm your host, Veronica V. Sofer, and I am so excited to be here. It's been a couple of weeks. We had some great family vacation time, and now we're all refreshed and relaxed. And I hope everyone has had an opportunity this summer to really just enjoy some fresh air, get out there, get recharged, because the world is ever changing, and it is time to get back to work and work on your visibility strategy. Because here at Saturday Soundbites, we talk about visibility strategy all the time. It's our favorite thing to discuss. We're talking about branding, advertising, public relations, marketing, networking, and all of those fantastic elements that bring your business and your brand to light for others. So with that in mind, I'm glad that we are back at it and that we have a guest that's really going to help explain another important part of visibility, and that is your ability to share your story through words, and talking about the speakers circuit and what that looks like and how to be a part of it and how to connect all of that networking that you do into making a successful speaking career. So let me introduce one of my favorite people in the world, Mr. Scott Mason. He is joining us from NYC. Hello.
Ms. Sofer, I am in the house with the Queen of Visibility. How are you?
I am so fantastic. I had a great vacation and I am back at it.
I can tell, and nothing better than a nice summer vacation, is there not?
Absolutely, for sure, for sure. So, Scott, tell us a little bit about who you are, and we'll dive right into your areas of expertise.
Thank you. So I am a professional speaker, an inspirational one at that, and a podcaster. I focus on resilience and I focus on connection to purpose. And I love bringing the energy, the message that I have, as well as the whole toolbox of skills and experiences that I've had in my professional background to motivate, inspire people, and having them imagine great possibilities for themselves and the businesses that they're working with.
I love that. And we all need some inspiration, and resiliency is definitely the word that we've been talking about lately. So share with us a little bit about your resiliency and how you have brought it to the forefront, and really what drives you to share that message, especially on stage.
Thank you. First of all, I want to start by saying that in the past year and a half, I don't think anyone would disagree with this, we as a people have walked through the darkest woods that many of us have ever seen in our lives. In our lives.
Yes.
Our ability to pull out our inner fortitude, to be able to maintain the inner strength to move forward, has been stretched and pulled beyond imagination. Look at the business world. Some of the greatest businesses that there are have tottered and shaken, and many have fallen. Yet here we are. Here are those of us who have listened or who have made it through and been able to hear and understand and learn from what's happened and look forward. The reason why I say that, Veronica, is that when resilience has been stretched this far, as we move forward, there's a lot to learn from this. There's a lot that I learned through my own personal and professional history, as well as really thinking about and being in this space and exploring it more deeply in my podcast. So I'm absorbing more and more lessons as I move forward that I think will be able to help and inspire people. Because I will also tell you this, and I dare anyone to disagree. As bad as the past year and a half have been, none of us should be under any illusion that this is the last catastrophe of any magnitude that we will face. And if anything, some of the struggles that we have going forward are going to be even greater. And so learning what we can from what's happening and has happened, being able to pull in the lessons from my own life, from studying it, from observing others, being able to use the gifts that I've been able to give to go out there and inspire people and ignite people and help build their inner resiliency muscles is going to be more and more important as we go forward. And I'm committed to that.
Yeah, I love it. That's so powerful. I just want to start clapping. Yes, yes, and yes. And I think that's true. And now that we're doing more events in person, it's interesting to me how so many people are just having a little bit of entry struggle with the reentry, right? Because I thought people would be just, ready to go with open arms. But I'm seeing in different spaces that people are struggling with reconnecting with people. And so I'm interested in and learning from you how you've been able to use your podcast and how you've been able to use your downtime, because you haven't been able to be on the stage for a while.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
have you done that, and how have you continued to share your brand and your message?
Thank you. First of all, it became apparent quite immediately, maybe after a couple of weeks of fantasy, that the lockdowns and all of that would just last a very short time. Once it became apparent that this was going to be a long-term thing, particularly here in New York City, where I live, Veronica, a half a block away is Central Park, where they were opening triage hospitals on the park lawns. This was going to be something we were going to have to deal with for a while. And so understanding that every single life experience and professional experience that I had required pivoting. That this, as much as it was a challenge with regards to visibility, also presented an opportunity. It was forcing us, whether we were ready to be forced or not, whether we liked it or not, to have to adjust our visibility strategy towards the future. And as 2020 in particular went on, it became apparent that we weren't going back to a true normal, not only anytime soon, but possibly ever. And so really, from a resilience perspective, making sure that calm, clear thinking, and the ability to psychologically pull yourself out of quicksand, that the changes that the pandemic brought in our day-to-day became an absolutely essential pivoting and survival skill. Networking. Thinking about every online resource as a potentially new avenue of developing relationships became essential. Really leaning into things like LinkedIn, understanding that social media across the board didn't have to just be an exercise in narcissism or pushing an idealized image of oneself out there, but an opportunity to connect with people and thinking about it globally. Understanding that by being able to connect with people around the globe through vehicles like Zoom or through shows like this, looking at podcasting as a visibility strategy that truly is multidimensional beyond what most people can even begin to imagine it as. All were ways to continue to do two things. A, be visible in the here and now, and exercise some creativity in doing it that ties into the individual brands that we have, but also laying groundwork, because eventually we were going to step out the doors again. And if that groundwork had not been laid, we'd be stepping out the door into an abyss.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And I feel like a lot of people, and myself in particular, and a lot of my clients spent 2020 with this downtime working on their brand, really delving into it. And I've heard you on other podcasts, and I know you are passionate about identifying at the core who you are for the world and being able to articulate it and make that happen in your day-to-day. Share with us a little bit about how you used that time to work on your branding and what some of the steps were, because people just assume visibility means you've got a great logo and you've got this color of fonts. Sometimes people aren't willing to invest the deep work that it takes to understand a true brand and a true visibility strategy.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. For many years when I worked in large organizational life, branding meant just getting that branding guide and, like you said, having a cool logo. It is so much deeper than that. And you can have the best logo in the world, which, by the way, I love your logo, Miss Sofer. But you can have the best logo in the world, but if it's not tied to anything more substantive, that logo is pushing you out into empty space.
Yes.
True branding involves understanding, number one, particularly if you are in the speaking space, in the motivational or self-improvement space, or you're a solopreneur of any type, what you stand for. What are your values? What is your purpose? What are your ethics? What is your meaning? Why are you here? And being honest about that. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What impact are you seeking to have? And what does that impact mean? Doing deep work that can be uncomfortable and unsettling. It
Mhm.
also means understanding your unique brand DNA. What is it about you that is different than everyone else? When it comes to personal branding, my belief is blending in with the crowd is a disaster. I couldn't if I wanted to anyway, but I take that as a blessing. That being said, we all have the power within us to see how am I different than everybody else? Then pull that up from within our hearts, transmogrify that into an actual brand identity, and then have those drive where you're going forward and tie into your strategy. Now, I am a big believer. None of us know everything. Sometimes I'm shocked at how little I know. So you get involved with people that are experts in this. You are a visibility strategist. You are an expert in your field and have a long, deep history of being able to promote people. So of course, as someone who believes in going with the best, I'm going to go with you. I also work with a personal brand strategist that can walk you through the steps, develop the pillars that underpin that brand identity that you're creating. So that's a part of it too. And then of course, making it happen.
Right, right. And that's the truth, right? Making it happen is it's great to have all that support and legwork. And a lot of people invest in big strategic plans. And if you're in the corporate space and you're listening or you're watching, you've gone through that strategic plan. It took 6 months and you've got a big 3-inch, 3-ring binder and it's just sitting on your shelf. Right? How many times,
Amen.
right? You've lived that life. You came from
Oh, yeah.
that space. And so being able to execute, and you just do a fantastic job of executing. And talk a little bit about purpose. It's in the name of your show,
Yes.
the name of your podcast, and we've talked a little bit about resiliency, but let's talk a little bit about purpose, especially how you have adjusted your talks now that you're on stage again.
Yeah. Purpose, I feel, is an absolute essential when it comes to developing visibility strategy as well as identity. Because if you don't know your purpose, especially from a potential client or customer perspective, they will never know what it is. And of course, most people are unwilling to spend money for something that serves no purpose whatsoever. They do tend to spend money as well as invest themselves in things that actually have meaning, that have value. And so connection to purpose is how we figure out what our value is going to be into the world. I see connection to purpose as essentially being put into place via a formula. Although it sounds mathematical, there is some reason to it. Purpose is looking at the gifts that you've been given, plus the experience you've had, parenthetical around those, then multiplying them by your sense of service.
Mm.
All of us, if we are going to succeed in any enterprise, whether it is our life, business, nonprofit, or even government, in order to truly offer value, need to approach it from a position of service. Service is something that people will galvanize around to such a degree that under the right circumstances, they will even sacrifice their lives for it. You think about it when people join the military.
Yeah.
What do they call it? The service.
Mm-hmm.
That's the power of service. If people are willing to die in the name of service, they are willing to part with their money and impart the information or take in the information from someone who they believe is serving them. If we understand the full inputs into that formula, our skills, our gifts, our experience, and a sense of service, we will have our purpose. We will be able to connect. And if we're able to then, again, as I mentioned earlier, tie our emotions into that, then those out there who need what we have to offer will be there.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, it does, and you got me pumped up, and I'm ready. And it takes me back to my my time when I was very active in the Girl Scouts of America. I've got two teenage girls, and at one point they were little, and we did brownies and we did cookies, and it was all about service. And that really spoke to me because I'd done a lot of volunteering in other spaces, but when I was volunteering as a parent with the Girl Scouts, it really felt like we were contributing to this greater good of bringing resources and activities and experiences to these young girls. And it truly was probably one of the most profound ways I was able to provide my expertise and my skills as a parent volunteer. So you are speaking my language for sure.
And by way of contrast, I worked for someone once who went into the entrepreneurial space, and her tagline was, such and such billionaire had me form a business under him, so I decided to do it for you. I don't see the service there. Yeah. And unsurprisingly, it didn't last very long. The service I try and provide is helping people to understand the formula so that they can connect to their own purpose and then live that fulfilling life and be resilient. But then also, as we mentioned earlier, have the strategies and skills in place so that when the need for those resilience muscles to be truly flexed, they're ready to go.
Yeah, they're absolutely ready to go. I love that. And in any space, whether it's healthcare or brick and mortar, selling insurance, whatever it is you're doing, it's certainly, once you're connected to purpose, you will be able to complete your day knowing that you were who you were supposed to be for the world. So absolutely. I love that. That's my language. You're speaking to my heart. So Scott, going back to your podcast, you've had an opportunity to not only have this phenomenal life that you've led, and I know I have shared and listened to a lot of your story before, but now you are connecting with others through your podcast.
Yep.
And the quality of guests you have just blows my mind. Share with me a little bit about how you nurture those relationships, how you incorporate that into your talks. Share with me about this opportunity that you have.
Yeah. Podcasts, superficially, can be a way to provide information and education or even just entertainment to an audience.
Sure.
And a little bit level deeper than that, they can be a way to enhance your brand simply by having content out there that goes into your email list or onto your social media. And so your face is in existence. Now, the true power of that visibility strategy, of course, is not necessarily maximized if you don't have it tied into your personal brand and a visibility strategy, having worked with someone like you. It goes deeper than that, as your question hinted at quite quickly. If the podcast and its approach are developed and executed in a strategic fashion, then it can even serve as a revenue driver or an ability for you to begin to pull in potential audience members or potential strategic business partners that will get you interested in developing the sorts of relationships or even directly come to you seeking whatever services that you have to offer. So that is some third level up power. Mm-hmm. There's even more deep of a potential impact that podcasting can have with regards to visibility strategy that goes as to what you were mentioning a moment ago, which is the guest. First of all, from a networking perspective, if you want to successfully network, of course, number one, you always have to enter into the networking interface that you're having, that contact with the person with an interest in what they're doing and a willingness to be of help to them in whatever way that you can. But when you have a podcast, let me tell you, as you know, doing this show, you're walking into the conversation with something of value. Mm-hmm. And that is the possibility of connection through the podcast itself or connection to other podcasters, because once you're part of that community, you build a network of people that can provide visibility to whoever you're attempting to network with. That's power. People will return your calls or your emails because of that. Number two, you develop subject matter expertise. Why would anyone of quality appear on your show if you had no expertise? How can you sit there on a show week after week after week, particularly if you persist with it and it is successful, as mine has been, listening and engaging in conversation and researching in preparation for each show? So there's that level of potential impact. And of course, subject matter expertise helps only bolster visibility and personal branding. Finally, if you are willing to and able to leverage your network and get quality guests, a rolling stone that gathers more and more moss gets created. There was an early network poll that I use in order to get as a guest on my podcast, was someone that was a client of mine in a former business that I owned. The man is a fashion legend. He has clothes that are in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, GQ, Time Magazine did full write-ups of him. He is a legend. When I worked for that company, I would say his name and people's jaw would hit the floor and then they'd pick it back up. Getting him on enabled me to say to the next guest, I've got so-and-so on this podcast. That next guest appeared. They were incredible. And then you start shooting out emails or having conversations with people saying, these are the guests that I've had. People prefer to be around those that are successful and that reflect on them. I've had guests say, I don't know if I'm qualified to even be on your show. They probably weren't, but at least it made it attractive to them. And to be able to be discerning about your podcast guesting, then again, bolsters that more and more. Now I'm at the point, the podcast guest that I had on my season 2 debut that just came out this week had a #1 New York Times bestseller for 47 weeks. And it was on the New York Times top 10 list for over 90 weeks. And of course, you tell people I'm hanging out with a #1 New York Times best-selling author. Yes, they want to hop on that train. So it boosts the visibility of the show because those people drive their own audiences to the show. But who are you hanging out with? Am I hanging out with Joe Schmo down the street, or am I hanging out with so-and-so who had a top 5 Billboard dance hit? It's a different impression that it gives.
Yeah. I love that. And I love how we're connecting all of that. We're connecting visibility strategy. We're connecting the branding. We're connecting networking, which people really don't spend enough time doing. And I want people to hear that. Networking is really the glue that brings all your business components together, all of it.
Yes.
And then it just allows you to be in community with like-minded people. And that's why I love spending time with you, Scott. I mean, really, that's what it is, because I love your energy. I love what you bring to the stage. I love what you bring to your show. I'll tell you the thing I love most. I love your detailed posts on LinkedIn because they tell beautiful stories. Your writing is succinct. I can tell that you have thought about it and you have been mindful, but then you bring that little flurry of just brilliance and SAT words to it. So I love it. I love it.
SAT words. If I could just say something about that, by the way, social media, podcasting, or other social media collateral that you put out there as a visibility strategy, I strongly believe that those write-ups connected to your posts are opportunities for awesomeness or disaster. Are you just using them again as opportunities to say, I, me, blah, 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 blah? Are you boring? Are you, like you said, droning on and on? Or are you using it as an opportunity to impart thought, to bring value, or to connect whoever is reading it to your purpose and perhaps have them identify with that purpose and connect with you? Building community. My brand identity is itself building a movement of people who are seeking meaning in life. Every single person who reads a post that I put thought into and is affected by it and takes the time and energy, like Melody, who I've seen in the comments today, is part of a community. That's networking. That's creating visibility power. And when I'm up on the stage, by the way, in that moment, that's what I'm trying to do, is create a community with everyone that's there. I feel genuine love for them if they're in that audience. I can't help it.
Yeah, I know. So talking about that as we're wrapping up the show, tell us a little bit about what you're up to and what you're looking forward to. Are you traveling? Are you ready to book events? Where are you at, Scott? What's up?
Thank you. So I am so happy that things are opening up again, because I have missed being out in front of people and getting to share that energy, to share the message and hopefully get people inspired. I love to travel. I'm beginning to book, and the more traveling I get to do, the happier I am. I don't mind sitting in a hotel and eating cheap food. If I am there with an audience, connecting with them, bringing this energy and fire onto the stage, and having people really feel exactly what you said earlier, like they want to stand up and cheer, or they feel touched somewhere inside because a story that I've shared or a message that I have reaches them, then my life has been worth living. I want to be booked and share this message all around. And I'm excited that the doors are beginning to open again for me to do that. I mean, in fact, the possibilities in a way are more endless than ever before. And the message is
Absolutely.
needed more.
I was just going to say, and we need it more than ever. We need that human connection. We need to feed your energy. You need to feed our energy. I'm just so excited for you that the world is slowly opening up, especially with you being in New York City. But what I will say is, I think you have taken this time during the pandemic to come back, to hone into your core, to really work on that strategy. You are, when I talk to people about what it takes to get to the next level, oftentimes, especially in the speaking space, I introduce them to you and your work because you did exactly what you needed to do. And so for that, I applaud you.
Well, I'm glad I've got you in my corner. That's all I've got to say about that. I am very lucky indeed.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, Scott, this has been fantastic. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I know I did. I'm ready to go to church. You set me on fire. I'm reconnecting to my purpose. I'm going to journal right after this.
And you're the queen of resilience.
That's right. I absolutely am. Absolutely. All right. So with that, I'm going to move you on stage and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode just as much as I did. Scott Mason is fantastic. When I tell you that he has invested the time in establishing his brand, his messages, and then putting it all together strategically, I am not kidding. I love the work that he's done. And I'm so thankful that someone of this caliber who has a show as popular and successful as he does has been able to join us on Saturday Soundbites and give you some advice and strategy. So with that, I am going to remind you to, if you're listening on the podcast, to hit subscribe because we want to make sure that you don't miss any episode. If you're watching on Facebook on the replay, #replay, so Scott and I can go back and engage with you and connect. And if you're interested in having Scott at any of your events, regardless of whatever space or industry you're in, I can tell you that having him on stage and working with your audience is going to be exactly what you need. So with that, I'm going to send you lots of positive energy and light, and we will see you next week.